What's up, Lonny?
Hello, Luke. How are you?
Pretty good, man. So, welcome to American Inc.
It's great to be here. I love it. Thanks for having me.
We're here in my humble abode.
I like it here. It's nice out here. I was telling you earlier that you're living like a capitalist out here, and you run around town espousing anarchistic theories.
Well,
so it's a nice juxtaposition that you're living here.
You know, I've got a reputation to uphold out
Yeah,
there. So
I know.
I don't want people to think that I'm too normal.
Don't worry, that's not going to happen.
This house was cut right out of 1967, whenever it was built. This is actually the house I grew up in.
I like it. It's great.
Thank you.
I like it. I like it a lot.
It's my home. We're looking at doing some painting here pretty soon, but I've been trying my best to keep it the way it is. If I had my way, it'd still have the orange shag carpet that was here for my whole childhood.
That would be nice. And then the Harvest Gold appliances in the kitchen. And
we seriously last year just changed out the stove and oven from the original stove that was in there, and it was much needed. Only one of our burners worked, and the oven wasn't working anymore. So
it's good because now you can actually cook food. It's nice.
Well, yeah, or the woman can. I don't want to get too modern.
No, don't.
Am I tiptoeing on the political correctness lines right
do
now?
not suck me in on that.
You're not one for defining roles between men and women, I guess. In the home.
Yes, I am. But
you don't want to talk about it.
we can talk
Let's
about it.
talk about it.
We can talk about anything you want.
Whenever you say I don't, whenever you give a signal that you're not quite comfortable, that's definitely what I want to talk about.
Then why don't we go right to it?
Oh man, you know there are so many different dynamics now. You think about the 50s and 60s whenever we think of the great time here in our country, there were a lot of guidelines and norms, do's and don'ts, things that everybody knew and expected what you're supposed to do. You weren't supposed to have sex or children out of wedlock. You weren't supposed to do so many different things. And now we've blown the doors off all that stuff. But it kind of sometimes it feels like we might be losing a little of the American culture sometimes.
Oh, no, we haven't lost a little bit of it. We've lost most of it.
You think so?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what is American culture anymore? When I think, honestly, you know, I was in the military, and you travel around the world. You've been all over the place too. You get to talk to other people from different countries, and it's kind of mind blowing when you hear some of their perceptions of Americans. But then you think about it, or you read somebody's crazy post on their Facebook page, and you're like, oh, okay, that's why they think that we know it. You know.
Well, you know, America is, as it's been said, still the greatest liberty beacon in the world.
It's the land of the free.
It is. It is. So we have a lot to be proud of here, and I don't think it's something we should apologize for. Doesn't mean we're better than anybody else. It just means that we should be proud of what we do here and what we've done here.
Freedom of speech is probably one of the biggest luxuries that we take for granted as Americans.
Okay, we've lost it. We've lost a tremendous amount of freedom of speech.
Well, to an extent, yeah, you're right. Because the thing is you have to, everything is tracked now. When you say something, it's out there. It's on the web. It's, you know, for us, it's on the air, on radio. It's out there. It's in the public, and it can be recorded. It can be written down. It can be brought back up and used against you in a court of law in the future.
You know, it's different if you're a professional broadcaster or on the air. You're held to a different set of standards, and you always have been.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about is out in the general public, just regular, everyday speak. And that is what's being infringed upon right now.
And people are so sensitive, too.
Well, it's gotten out of hand, and the political correctness is what the issue is here. That is
Political
the major.
correctness.
It's the major issue.
So, okay, I find myself on both sides of the fence on this whole deal with political correctness because, for one, sending out hate, hurting people or hating people just because they're different, I'm not okay with. But at the same time, you know, I don't want to say boys will be boys, but people are people sometimes. People just say shit. They just say stuff just to say it without thinking about the consequences of what they're saying. And I think we lose sight of that's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to have a human element. It's okay to mess up and say, I messed up, I'm sorry. Now it's like you make a mistake, and especially if you're a professional, it's like the death sentence. You know, it's the end of all things for you.
Well, everybody's offended about everything, okay? Everybody's offended. And here's the bottom line. you don't have the right not to be offended. Okay,
Right.
there's things that offend me all the time, but you know what? Too bad. And it seems innocent enough to say, well, we're just trying to protect other people's feelings, but this political correctness goes a lot deeper than that. This began in World War I. This is a Marxist plan. Okay,
Right.
This is because what Marx wanted to do was destroy Western civilization. All right, and it starts with economics. But here's the problem in the United States, okay?
What's that?
Most people like capitalism, okay?
Yes.
The left has done a really good job over the last many years pitting wealthy people against people who aren't wealthy to push the agenda of redistribution of wealth, okay? That's not working so well in America because, for the most part, Americans like capitalism. So they took it to the next step, and the next step is cultural divide. Okay, they weren't going to accomplish their goals with economics. They wanted to accomplish it now with destroying American culture, the unity of the family, everything that this country was built on. In order to destroy Western civilization and bring about socialism, that's what they needed to do. And that's what's going on with political correctness today.
Well, you want to know what I think is that both, you mentioned that the left does a lot of this stuff with the media especially. I agree. I'm not arguing that at all, but I do absolutely believe that the left and the right are both working together behind the scenes to kind of keep us chasing the proverbial cheese. You know, it's you can't have sleight of hand with one hand. You ever gone to a magic show and seen a magician with one hand? I haven't, but I mean, I bet there's probably one out there, but it's probably a whole lot harder to do with just one hand. You know what I'm saying?
Well, the divisiveness is definitely a great tool of both the left and the right to keep us fighting. But I think that for a long time that was the case. But I think now things have gotten so heated and the two parts of the country are so deeply divided with ideology that I don't think we need their help.
Hey, here's an idea. Here's a hot topic. I think Trump is still a Democrat. I think he always has been, and I think that his entire ploy is to disrupt the way of business in the government, and possibly even to bring down the entire Republican Party. But I think his entire mission, which he seems to be accomplishing, is to cause disruption within the government, and I think for good reason. You know, one thing that we talked about before was when the American dream died, because a lot of us feel like it's not attainable anymore. We're all doing the best we can to maintain our mortgage payments, to keep a vehicle, keep a job, and everything gets more and more expensive. Gas gets more expensive, prices on products, the cost of living, it's all going up, right?
Right.
And people are going crazy. Kids are out in the streets doing all kinds of god-awful things, selfies, drugs, all kinds of, craziness.
Wait, did we just include selfies and god-awful things? Have selfies reached that point
I'm
now?
talking about kids, 12, 13, 14-year-olds,
Right.
Just crazy stuff you would never want to. 20 years ago, you could never even fathom your kid doing. But the thing is, when did it start? When did it really start? I think it started whenever we finally let the Federal Reserve go private. Thomas Jefferson, and of course, I think 1850s, around Civil War time, they also did stop a Federal Reserve Bank from setting up. I think one time they even burned it down because the thought was that it would lead to corruption, which is what you don't have a political campaign today without having lobbyists. What are lobbyists? You know what lobbyists are.
Of course.
Pretend I'm dumb and I don't know anything, but lobbyists are basically...
Well, they're peddling influence in Washington to get the bills that they want passed that is in the interest of the party that they represent.
Right. And so companies like Marlboro, we'll say Anheuser-Busch, don't even get me started with the big pharma companies. They all have these lobbyists that go to Washington, and their sole purpose is to legally bribe these politicians by saying, we're going to give you this amount of money for your campaign as long as you promise to pass these laws or enable these products to be sold. Despite the fact there's maybe Surgeon General warnings, or the CDC reports over 500,000 deaths caused by tobacco every year, it still continues. And they know it's wrong because they have these lobbyists. So there's definite obvious corruption, and it's been that way for a long time. Myself, I feel like it's whenever the Federal Reserve started, but it may have started long before that. I don't know.
I missed that history class. I was under the bleachers with Becky Sue, so you've got me on that one.
I got a feeling you were a little bit of a rebel in high school.
But look, we're talking about the American dream. You just brought it up. Okay, here's why
you weren't living it. You're under the bleachers with Becky Sue in high school. That's the American dream.
Here's why the American dream is alive and well. Okay, here's why. You talked about people struggling to make their mortgage payments and struggling to buy food. Yes, that is true. But the point is, if you look around the entire world and look how we're living in this country, we are living the American dream. Mm-hmm. Whether you're living in the south poorest part of Dallas in a very small frame home, you're living the American dream, because there are people way worse off than that.
So maybe the American dream hasn't died, more so as it's changed drastically.
Let's look at the number of people that are trying to get into this country compared to the number of people that are trying to get out of this country, and I think you'll see that.
Okay, hold on.
This is the place to be.
I've tried. It's not that easy to get out of this country, okay?
You just don't know the right people.
Who's going to take us, We're going to move to Mexico or, like, Nicaragua?
We could.
Venezuela would take us right now, I think.
Yeah, you go. I think you fit.
Oh, man. I was watching – there's a show called Vice. It comes on, I believe, HBO. They got it on YouTube. And we really don't know how good we got it sometimes. So the country of Liberia, we set it up during the Civil War times for a country for African Americans that wanted to leave and go back to Africa, would have a place to go. But we didn't set up any infrastructure there. We didn't put any sewage, any political system or anything. We pretty much just dropped them off there. And it's like Survivor. You drop off a bunch of people in the middle of an island or some land, and they go kind of crazy. And I was watching the show, and it was called The Cannibals of Congo. And these people have been fighting, struggling for power, to maintain power. They overthrown the government several times, and they go so far to instill fear in their opponents that they eat each other's hearts. They tear out each other's, but they're also starving too, and sometimes it's actually for nourishment. But like, we have it so lucky here. We don't know. We take it for granted. Yeah, things have changed a lot. Things are not ever going to be like they were. But you got to think, the time that we've had this country is a blink of an eye as far as existence of manhood and civilization. We're just getting started. We're still an infant as far as nations go. So I think a lot of times the freak out, everybody, oh my God, everything's going to end. He can't be president. She can't be president. They can't be president. I think it's all knee-jerk reaction. I think people overreact because they're so caught up in the stuff they see on TV.
Look, I agree with you on a lot of things here, but where I think we disagree is, I think we're at a critical moment in the history of this country. And I know they say that every election, this might be the most important election of your life, and that's to get people out to vote. But when this country's government changes from a capitalist society to a socialist society, this is not going to be the America that we grew up in.
But it already was a socialist society before. I mean, it was in the 40s whenever we had Roosevelt. That was a socialist
There were socialist policies.
And that's why he got to run 4 terms back to back, right?
Right. There were socialist policies, and there still are socialist policies in a lot of the government programs that we have. But for the most part, capitalism still prevails. That is what sustains this country.
Yeah.
That's what made this country what it is.
Well, I agree with you on that. I totally agree with you on that. The only thing I don't agree with is the trickle-down economy. I don't believe it works. I don't understand why you can think that you can trust a certain group of people to, return the money back into the economy, rather than just tax them like you do everyone else. To this day, that's one concept I've never been able to grasp. I don't understand. It doesn't seem like it works.
I missed that class. I was with Barbara Ann under the bleachers.
If you make it, the left likes to use this a lot, but the idea is if you make enough money, you get an exemption on your tax, and you don't have to pay as much back in income tax. but people find other ways to disperse it into business and things like that. But that's the whole thing about capitalism, is if you're smart enough, you try hard enough, you work hard enough, you do have the opportunity, you do have the ability to make something more out of your life than what you started with.
Capitalism doesn't mean you're going to become the next billionaire.
Right.
It means that you have the freedom to do what you want. Mm-hmm. You can go into any business you want. You can live anywhere you want, any state you want. You can do whatever you want. You can raise your children.
And that's why we're opening the sex store next week. Lonnie's looking at me like you weren't supposed to tell
Let me call my accountant about that.
I promised Lonnie I wasn't going to say anything inappropriate today.
You can say all you want as long as your face is on the screen. And oh, wait a minute. Don't say anything yet.
Oh, man. No, but that it is the land of opportunity. It still is. It really is. The only thing that we really need to be concerned about is the health of the planet. We do have to be. Look, man, it's January right now. It was 72 degrees today. It was 72 degrees yesterday. I don't care what you believe in. It's warmer now than I remember it being last year. Maybe it was 50 degrees last year. But something's up with that. There's more water in all the lakes.
I am not going to say that climate change is not a real thing, because I think it is. Mm-hmm. The issue is how much of it is man-made climate change and how much of it is just the natural cyclical curve of the earth.
I mean, how much of it is just rocks falling in the water?
Because when we go back 60 years and look at the weather forecasts for all the years, we have winters that were warm like this, and we have winters that were colder than normal. This has happened before, okay? So I believe that there's a lot of scare here to accomplish an agenda that isn't necessarily the way we need to be going.
Okay, here's my problem with that. Explain the death of the Great Barrier Reefs. They've been around. They've taken several 100,000 years to develop and become that large. If weather was cyclical like it is now, if we went through these long durations, why did it never die before?
The earth has changed. Look at all the mountains and the rivers and the canyons. The earth changes all the time. Every day it's changing, but we don't see it because it's so small. But you look at it over 200 years, and there's changes. 1,000 years, and there's changes. And you know, I suppose. Look, I'm not an environmentalist, and I suppose
me either.
I suppose everybody. I suppose everybody is an environmentalist to some degree.
We all want to take care of our home.
Nobody wants dirty water. Everybody wants clean air, right? Everybody wants bumblebees and plants and all of that. Okay, everybody wants it. It's just, how are we going to go about that? We have to work together with the planet. But again, we're talking about the destruction of the Western industrialist society in order to accomplish what some of these environmentalists tell us we have to do.
But I mean, honestly, I just gotta say it, man. I think global warming is a real thing. I don't think it's cyclical. Like I said, the Great Barrier Reef is gone. Lake Tawakoni is higher than it ever is. So is Cooper Lake. Out here, it's raining all the time, and I feel like people enjoy what they're doing so much. They enjoy our lifestyle, our American lifestyle. Not just Americans, Chinese, Russians, English, everyone all over the world. We enjoy our lifestyle enough. We're not willing to sacrifice so much. So much is going to go to the wayside whenever we decide we're not going to use fossil fuels anymore. As far as our homes, our transportation, our jobs, our entire economy, everything is going to change. Just like, we won't get into this right now, but just like in the event that marijuana is legalized, so much is going to change with the pharmacies as far as industry and income like that goes. And I think because of that, people are willing to just deny the inevitable, to put it off. It's not my problem right now. I don't have to deal with it. I think whenever people that do believe that way, the light will switch on for them is whenever we're in the middle of May and June here in Texas or anywhere, and it's 130 degrees.
I mean, I'm okay with that because I'm usually a little chilly anyway. So,
it's easier to work up a sweat. I'm trying to lose some weight after the winter anyhow.
No, look, climate change, I believe climate change is real. Again, what I was talking about was how much of it is man-made and woman-made, and how much of it is naturally occurring. And I think that the science is still out on that. And I'll tell you something. The government gives grants out to scientists for research, and the scientists want to continue to get those grants. So they're going to follow along, and they're going to report what is going to get them the money. They're not going to come out and rock the boat.
A little self-preservation there.
I'm not saying that I'm not dismissing all of this. Believe me, I'm not.
It's cyclical.
Well, it is cyclical for a lot of
I hate
a
that
lot
word.
Of
it's such a hard word to say.
It is
cyclical.
That's why I said cyclical.
Like who the hell wants to argue with you when you start using words like cyclical? You're like, screw that.
Hey, I already said cyclical and juxtaposed. I'm done.
Really
I think I can go
like
home
an
now.
STD.
No. Okay, you're going to bring this conversation down to that level, aren't you? This is the Luke Wildman I was waiting for.
It's like a virus, and everyone thinks it's cyclical. No. Everybody's entitled to opinions, though. That's the great thing about America and podcasting and media is you have the ability to give your voice.
But people are not entitled to opinions in America any longer.
Yeah, they are. They're just more likely to have to deal with the consequences than they used to. There's good consequences and there's bad consequences. I'm a firm believer of positive energy and manifesting your own destiny and all that stuff. So I don't hold back most times, but a lot of people do because of the big watchdog that's out there, the eye, the cameras. They're everywhere. You
say the wrong thing and you're finished.
Yeah, you
have to move.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Not me, yo. I ain't moving out of this son of a bitch. I tell you, this is my home. I grew up here, by God. Isn't that the Texas way?
Yes, it is.
That is the Texas way.
I love the Texas way, by the way.
You've been here for so long.
I've been here for a long time.
Practically a Texan.
I am a Texan.
I
I got here when I was 13 years old, and now I'm 21, and so I've been here most my entire life. So I consider myself a Texan. I go back to New York to visit once every 4 years, and it's nice to visit, but it's not home. Texas.
People are dying to know what it was like in New York because a lot of folks have never been to New York. I've been there. I was stationed up in New Jersey for 6 years, so I had the great misfortune of traveling up there and seeing a guy that was wearing like Rastafarian beads and standing on a box proclaiming to be Jesus and telling everyone how the white man was the devil. That was my first experience with New York City because they had the street performers and everything, and as a kid from Sulphur Springs, Texas, 18 years old, it was like culture shock, total culture.
But New York is different today than it was in the 60s, just like Texas is different today than it was in the 60s. Okay?
Right. So you haven't, but you go back every now and then.
Not very much anymore because this is home. I love Texas. That if I'm going to take a vacation or have a few days off, I'd rather go down to Big Bend or San Antonio.
We got it all here in Texas.
Everything is here in Houston.
New York.
That's right. I don't even want to cross the border to Oklahoma.
Piss on them. Don't even get me started on those Sooners, sons of bitches.
You folks in Oklahoma, I love you people. This is Luke Wildman who has the problem.
Hook 'em horns, baby.
I'm great with Oklahoma. And by the way, the Indians who you like, they have the casinos, which is awesome. So, hey, Oklahoma, I love you people. Okay.
Oh, man, what a great state. they're so modern, too. They're very modern. I worked up there for a couple years. They work too damn hard, man. I worked up in Yukon, Oklahoma at it's just outside Oklahoma City. I lived in Yukon, but I worked at AAR, Oklahoma, working on an aircraft. And, they work too damn hard up there in Oklahoma, man. Get back down here, Texas. People know what's good in life.
I don't see what the problem is.
You work a little bit hard.
Oklahoma, why don't we start offending people in Kansas? Who cares about Kansas, right? Just keep driving north.
There ain't nothing there but sunflower fields and oil derricks.
But enough about global warming.
Global warming. If it don't kill us, I'm all right with it. But the thing is like the experts, the scientists out there are saying in like 10 years, it's going to be irreversible, that everything is going to get hotter and hotter until we all just die.
You think that the temperature is going to change that much that in 10 years, the planet's going to die?
I don't know.
Al Gore?
I don't know. I mean, if it's 130 through the summers and 90
through the winters. It's not going to be 130 degrees in the summers here in 10 years.
I hope not.
It's not.
I hope not. But it does seem like it's getting warmer.
Just get a pool.
I'll just turn the sinks on and just plug up the door stops. Just let the house turn into a pool. Just float to the bathroom. That's kind of gross.
and I really don't mean to make a joke about it. We're having fun here,
Right,
but
right.
look, some of this stuff is serious stuff. Somebody's got to worry about the penguins.
And those poor polar bears just floating on one single piece of ice out in the Pacific Ocean.
Screw the polar bears.
There's some polar bear just sitting there going, damn it.
Drinking that Coke from that commercial.
Why can't they just drive Teslas?
Hey, and that's another thing. You want everybody to drive electric cars? Give
Why not?
everybody an electric car.
No, I don't want everyone to drive. Okay, yeah.
Give everybody
That would be
one.
a socialist thing to do, though.
No. Look, it wouldn't. Here's the thing. Most people today have credit issues. So if they go to a dealership to buy one of these electric cars, they're not getting one. They're not getting one, okay? So you want people you want to clean up the planet? You want to get rid of the fossil fuels or limit them greatly? Make sure everybody's driving an electric car. I would not have a problem driving an electric car, but I don't have one.
But where do they get their cut? And that's them spending money. That's the opposite of the way that the government works today. It's about making money.
So there we are. If you're really serious about getting rid of fossil fuels and doing a lot of these things that would help reverse what you're calling inevitable global warming, then there's steps that can be taken. But I guess we're not serious enough to take those steps.
We're not serious about it at all. There's so many things that have me scratching my head. For one, the fact that cigarettes are still legal. Another thing is, like in the state of Texas, you can't collect rainwater. It's illegal to collect rainwater, like for your tank or your reservoir. There's a law against collecting rainwater. There's all these different laws out there. The marijuana being illegal. There's these laws out there that prevent us from studying, using, learning about things that can help us, that can help the earth, help everything. And I don't understand why. I think that there is some. I don't know if there's some little man behind a big giant machine just pulling levers and like pushing buttons and we're going to make these people lose their jobs today and all these people are going to. No, I don't think that. But I do believe that there's a group of families that have a lot of control over our money and how much money is loaned to the government and where it goes and the interest rates. And
I didn't know you wanted to talk about the Clintons now. Okay, let's go there then.
Well, there's a lot of folks that consider them to be part of that circle. I'm talking about the Rothschilds, J.P. Morgans, all these big oil executives that we don't see anything of. But if you look them up, if you Wikipedia them, you Google them, you'll be amazed at how much influence and how much money they have. And a lot of them are involved with our government, or well, not just our government, but several governments, around the world. And I feel like there is a certain element that it doesn't affect them, so why do they care? They're making money. Their wealth is growing. Their separation, their distance from us, their safety. Think about technology with security and everything, drones and computers and cameras. It's harder and harder for Robin Hood to prevail in these situations, and for the wealthy people to keep getting wealthier and wealthier. And I think that is part of the reason why you have these folks that are on the far left that are able to gain momentum and gain support because they prey on some of these things that we see that are true, but they take it to an extreme perversion, just like people on the right can do to benefit their cause, if you will.
Yeah, I guess I'm biased, and I'll admit that I'm biased.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look at it and say, no, I'm not biased. I am biased,
Right.
okay? But the changes that are happening in this country, what I consider to be bad changes in this country, for the most part are coming from the left. They're not coming from the right. The right is status quo. The right is happy having everything the way it is, and if wealthy people get wealthier, they're okay with that too. But the changes, and here's what sounded good. When Barack Obama was elected, and he immediately came out after the election and talked about
And I got laid off.
the fundamental transformation of America, people thought, what a great sounding idea. Nobody really thought about what the fundamental transformation of America means. And that means changing our society to reflect a socialist, European-style government. That is not what this country is, but that's what they're trying to do. I'm sorry. That's the truth.
I think it is, though. I think that this country is completely ruled by our government. It's totally ruled by our government, and by it's a police state. It is. You know, you can drive through the southern states, and you see. My dad's a retired highway patrol. I have nothing against law enforcement. I'm just saying this is a fact. There is a much.
I love law. You know what? Law enforcement are my favorite people in the world. Okay, go ahead.
There's much more opportunity for employment down here. You'll see much more of them. You'll see there's these task forces set up. There's beat cops all over the place. And you'll go somewhere up north. We just went to Colorado. You can go up to Minnesota. You can go to California or New York.
Was it cold in Colorado?
No.
It wasn't cold?
It wasn't cold, no. We walked around with short sleeves.
I told you this global warming was real.
One day it did get cold. It got really windy and cold, though. But the presence isn't there. You know, and then you look at our incarceration system, our prisons. We've got 4% of the world's population as far as the country goes, and we got 25% of the world's prison incarceration population. 25% of all people that are in prisons around the world are in prisons here in the United States. You understand what I'm saying?
Stop breaking the freaking law.
Well, that's the thing is there are new laws being invented all the time that I think some folks don't realize they're breaking. And then once you do get into a situation where you're accused of something, the obstacle of acquiring an attorney, you think about things like retaining fees. They're so high that the average person can't actually do that. What happens, they wind up getting stuck with the public defender who works regularly with the prosecutor in the DA's office, and they tend to care more about prosecution than they are actually finding out if someone is truly guilty or not. They feel they're more concerned with winning. It's the same thing that happens with folks when they pick a side to be biased to as far as left or right. Instead of, finding out the truth or finding out what's right or what's wrong, for them, it's about winning. Who cares what the other side's saying? Who cares what point they have? I don't care. We're going to win.
Well, the judicial system has worked for me, and my record speaks for itself. 32 arrests, 0 convictions. So thank you, America. Oh, man. I think, what's the next topic? We're just driving down the highway of
Let's talk about
here.
all of them. Let's talk about all of them.
Man.
I think when all the different things that we're talking about are tied into the reason why folks feel like the American dream is dead. Even though it's really not. We have we've gone through the 60s, went through the flower power children. We went through the rebellious stage whenever folks were asking why instead of just doing everything we're told to. And in that process, this is the reason why we elected Donald Trump to be president. We found a lot of corruption. We found a lot of things that were loopholes that people were taking advantage of and basically taking money away from the average American, hardworking American. And people are pissed, and that's not what we signed up for. That's not what we're told is going to happen with this country. It's the land of equal opportunity.
Well, when we have career politicians and we don't have term limits and these people get in and they're entrenched for their entire lives and they grease each other's palms and then get on TV and call each other names and point fingers and then you go to the cocktail parties in Washington.
Do lines of coke off of strippers.
And
they do. They do these things.
I'm going back to my point, okay? Trump was elected because people were tired of that.
Yes.
People were tired of being manipulated by the government, and he said all the things that people wanted to hear. He said, I'm going in there, I'm going to change things, I'm going to do things for the American people, and both the Republicans and the Democrats hate him because he doesn't want to play by their rules. And this is what's going on here today. Now, I'm not saying that the guy doesn't say things and put out tweets that I wish he wouldn't do, okay? There's two different Donald Trumps. There's the tweeting Donald Trump.
It's crazy.
And then there's the Donald Trump who has the policies that are really making America great again. That's
Jesus.
He's doing a lot of things he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
Like them or not, it's happening, and he's hated by everybody because, hey, they had a good thing going.
You really think he's going to get the wall built?
I
don't think so. He's halfway through a term. What do they got, like a couple miles built now? Honestly, I'm not trying to.
No, I don't have an answer.
There's like 2,000 miles to cover. I believe.
I think that he's pretty certain he's going to get it done, and I think that both the Republicans and the Democrats have found out that if he says he's going to do something, he's going to do it. The government's shut down. He says, I'm not signing the bill to get the government back going again until you give me the money for the wall. So it's a stalemate. And if it was
but you think that's a good thing, though?
I do think it's a good thing. Listen, while the government's shut down right now, I wish somebody just start another one real quick.
Start another government.
Because this one's not working so well.
Oh, man. You know, people do that in television and radio all the time.
I wouldn't know. I have no idea what people do in radio.
It's not going so well over here.
Okay,
Let's start another one.
Podcast.
What's that, Corey?
Right. They start a podcast.
They start a podcast, yeah. Oh, shit. The truth will get you sometimes.
See, I have not uttered one bad word this entire time, and you are just letting it fly. America, you know.
America, I'm keeping it real over here. And we've got contrasts in beliefs on different things and ideas, but I think if America could do what we're doing, especially like the political bodies that are in running everything, they could sit down and talk. And that's the thing. I really believe they can. We when I was in the Air Force, we worked on the KC-10. We had the Silver Bullet package. We had dignitaries coming on all the time. You had people at different parties. They'd sit down and they would, just like this, they bullshit with each other. But then the lights come on, the cameras come on, the audiences arrive, and they're polarized. And I don't know.
But
I just feel like it's a game.
Through all the history of this country up until now, there have been liberal agendas and there have been conservative agendas, but basically both sides could come together with patriotism and proud of the country. You know, labor unions are traditionally Democrats, okay? But those guys in the labor unions on the East Coast of the 50s and 60s, when it came to July 4th, man, they were out there with their families. They were patriotic. They were waving the flag. That's not what the left is today. The left hates this country and everything it stands for. And so here's what we've got. We have got...
That's a pretty biased statement, though.
Hey, it's a true statement, okay? This is
as far as opinions go,
This is why we have the divisiveness that we have in this country. This is why we have gender studies and women's studies and black studies and trans studies. The reason we do is to get everybody separated from each other so we cannot unify as one people.
I'm gonna throw some fodder at you.
Go ahead.
So you can agree or disagree, but there's a belief out there that the majority of educators, teachers, especially in universities, are liberals.
Without a doubt.
Now, their goal, their purpose in life, they've gone to college, they've developed a career and life out of educating our young Americans, our students. That is the future of our country. And I don't know how you can say like an entire group of people want... Basically, you're saying that every educator wants the country to fail. Like, why are they even educating?
No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is people in academia, in the universities, it's an incubator for left thought in this country. And you look on the news and you look in the streets every day and you see teenagers and college students screaming at the sky at the top of their lungs because they hate Trump. Okay? This is what is being taught in these universities. Universities are supposed to be a venue for all kinds of free thought. All sides have the opportunity to voice their opinions. That's not what's happening here.
Do you think that... So I believe that a lot of people resent incompetence. You know, there's a thought that, like when it comes to alpha and beta, you know, positions, male and female. Alpha males tend to, and females tend to ascend to a position of leadership or authority, and people are usually okay with that.
Right.
But at times, beta males do the same thing, and people are not okay with it. And I think based on his speech and his tweets on things that he says all the time, people have, not saying it's right or wrong, people have categorized him as a beta in an alpha position, and they hate it. It's just like if somebody was to give Mother Teresa or who's somebody that's a humanitarian in history? Nelson Mandela, somebody that sacrificed their entire life for something. Schindler, okay, somebody. If for whatever reason their government body gave them $10-20 million, nobody would really care, right? But if you give it to somebody, some schmuck like me or you, and it's publicized everywhere, people are going to be pissed off. Like, why'd you give that to him? He didn't deserve that, because they don't see you as an alpha, as a deserving person in that position. And I think whenever this man has gotten to this position, especially with all the stuff floating out there about the cyber, the hacking, and the Russians' involvement in the election, everything like that, people feel like it's undeserved. And I think more than it being taught to hate him or to resent him, I feel like for a lot of people it's a natural inclination that they're not aware of, so they can't combat. They can't go, oh, I'm jealous or I'm pissed off because I don't feel like he deserves to get what he's gotten. Instead, they say, it's everything he stands for. It's the party that he stands for. It's because this, that. He's got money. He should give it all away. Where's my cut? I think that people get confused a lot of times with emotions versus, judgment.
Well, first of all, I want to say that there's only one schmuck at this table, and it's not me. Okay, that's the first thing I want to say.
So are we connecting tables here, Corey?
The thing about Trump is he is rolling back all of the things that Barack Obama attempted to get accomplished, and the people who
want healthcare,
the people who want society to go in the Obama direction are pretty pissed off. Yeah. They don't want this rolled back. That's why they wanted Hillary in, because she was going to continue on Obama's agenda. That's where she was headed. That's what they wanted, and they didn't get it. And because they didn't get it, they've come up with this concoction of the Russians interfering with this election, which to this day, and this investigation's been going on forever with millions of dollars being spent, that bias has been shown from all these people that have been involved in this thing, and there's still not one shred of evidence. He's gotten a couple...
Then why are all his assistants going to jail?
This is other things. What they're doing is they're finding things in these people's past, and they're prosecuting them, hoping that they'll roll over on Trump and give them some information so they can go after him.
Do you think it's happening?
No, it's not happening.
Hey, Corey, I'm going to have to get you to bring this up. There's a video of the George H.W. Bush's funeral, and the Secret Service gives a letter to Laura. Look up George H.W. Bush funeral Secret Service letter, Corey. They give this letter to Laura Bush. She looks at it. You can see this look of shock on her face. She looks over to George W. on her left. She says something like to the nature of, is this true? Is this real? And you can tell the look on his face is that of shame. He's like, yep. And then she turns to her right, and she shows Jeb. And Jeb is smiling, looking at the casket go by, and you see his face turn to complete terror. And he looks at his brother, and he looks across the pew. It looks like he's looking over at Trump. You're going to, okay, see if you can find, you might have to fast forward it. But it's just kind of, everybody Trump was sitting over with Obama's and McCain, everybody, not McCain, he's gone. Jimmy Carter, all the previous presidents and vice presidents that are alive, they're all over there. And you just watch, everybody gets the same letter. You see her now, she's showing this letter to Jeb. Look at his face.
So what is the letter? What's the point?
There's people saying it's an indictment. There's folks out there that are speculating it's an indictment. And if you look over at the Democrats, they seem a little smug. Especially Hillary. If you get a chance to pan over to Hillary, there she is. But it just makes you wonder, like, what is on that? There's stuff that happens we don't know anything about. There's even rumors or conspiracy theories out there that are saying that George H.W. was put to death because he was part of this, and the same thing with Senator McCain happened as they were put to death. And I don't know. There's so much crazy,
I don't believe any of that.
Conspiracy crap
George
out there.
H.W. passed away because he was an old man, and his wife, who he was married to his entire life, passed away earlier in the year.
Very common.
And it was just too much. So there's no way to know what was in that letter. Who knows what it was?
But it's just kind of crazy. Like, who would pick this funeral?
It might have been a bill for the funeral. Oh, my God.
You know who didn't get a letter?
Who?
The president.
But if that was an indictment of anybody...
And it came from his secret security team.
If that was an indictment of anybody there, and we're talking about, it's been several weeks now. This is not a secret any longer. So whatever was in there was of a personal nature. Yeah. That's what that was.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But has the Mueller report been released yet?
No.
You think it will be?
No.
You don't think they're going to make it private?
I think that there's
Censored?
Not going to be much there.
Yeah.
I think that right now they're freaking out going, what are we going to say?
What if there is?
Well, then the chips fall where they may. Look, I voted for Trump, okay? Yeah. And I love his policies, and I'm not ashamed to say that, okay? I don't think he's a Nazi. I don't think he's a racist. I don't think he's all these things that the left calls him. But here's the thing. If for whatever reason Trump is involved in criminal activity, he's got to go.
You think so?
It doesn't matter to me.
Even if he did it on accident.
Well, I mean, a lot of people.
What if he didn't know that what he did was illegal?
You know what?
I mean, honestly,
I'm not gonna buy it because there's advisors, there's people who tell you, hey, this is something you shouldn't be doing.
This is the thing, Lonnie. We've all worked for these people. There are certain people out there you just can't talk to. There's certain people you can watch them completely decimate their entire business, their entire reputation, and they've got every sign, they've got every advisor, they've got every professional in that industry they could have around them, and they're completely deaf and blind to all input. There are those people out there.
Well, here's the thing. Whatever side of the political aisle you're on, whoever you support, if it's found out that that person has broken the law, they got to go. It doesn't matter if you voted for them, if you really like them, if you're heartbroken because what they promised is not going to happen. If they broke the law, they got to go.
See, but this is my whole thing, and this is why I have a hard time with accepting that, because I feel like there's a lot of things that Trump says and does that he doesn't have all the information on, and I think there's a possibility that if he is found to have done something out of character or something illegal, that he really could have done it without knowing it was illegal.
And here's the difference between the people who support the Democrats and the people who support the Republicans, okay? The people who support the Democrats didn't want to know what Hillary was doing. If she committed a crime, they didn't care. They wanted it covered up, and they didn't want to talk about it anymore.
See, she lost me whenever she decided to send a note to her campaign manager saying, Bernie, we need to X out Bernie as far as a Democratic candidate because he's Jewish. And that actually was said. That actually happened.
She's not a good person, okay? But here's the thing. Trump may not be a good person either, okay? The point of it is until somebody shows me that a law has been broken, I don't want to hear innuendo in the press. I don't want people screaming in the streets calling the man a Nazi.
Right.
Calling, you know what's even worse?
It's kind of funny that nobody's brought up that deal about Hillary and the campaign. I mean, she said it was strategic, and it's because people in this country are Christians, and they would never vote for it. But, I mean, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty prejudiced statement, if you ask me. It's anti-Semitic in a way.
You don't think there's a double standard as far as the media is concerned when it comes to Democrats versus?
Absolutely.
Well, so there's the issue is that.
But it's both ways, though. It's both ways. It just depends on what network you're watching.
Well, what, the Republicans have one network and the Democrats have 200 networks? Is that what we're talking about here? Because that's what it is.
Well, there's only, 4 or 5? There's ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox.
Okay.
Is that it?
Okay. And MSNBC, let's go
but
on.
Those are all branches. There's Fox News, there's Fox Sports, there's Fox TV.
Well, the point of it is that the media is far and away, they have been in the bag for Hillary Clinton from way back. Not only Hillary Clinton, but Bill Clinton also. Okay, this has been going on since the 80s. Okay, even before that, but the media has gone way overboard, and people can't trust them. People don't want to trust the media anymore, and for good reason.
I'm glad that way they can tune in and trust us.
They're not tuning in.
We've got the answers right here. Don't you worry. Right here in Sulphur Springs, Texas.
You just keep dreaming.
Oh, Luke and Lonnie. What's that, Corey?
You just keep dreaming.
Oh, man.
Don't you guys have a break or a station? Isn't there something?
No,
we're just going to keep talking all night. Is that what we're doing
podcast,
here?
You know,
oh my gosh!
For those of you guys that are not in the Tri-County area, Hunt, Hopkins, Lamar County, you may not be familiar with Lonnie, Jay, and I. We're both radio personalities here. Usually I'm on the Coyote 93.5. Lonnie is the morning show host for Lonnie J and the Rockin' Oldies show.
That's at night.
That's at night.
That's at night. The morning
shows
cafe.
How much I pay attention.
You know, remember I stole the name cafe, and you said, "Oh, that's the one I was going to use." I said, "Hey."
Well, it used to be the Coyote Cafe for the longest time.
There you go. That's when good people were on the radio. That before you got there, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Real angels.
So where are we headed next, Luke? What are we talking? What haven't we talked about yet?
We haven't talked about the Cowboys.
The Cowboys are in a good position. I'm not talking about what happens in this next playoff game because anything can happen.
Yeah.
They could win it, they could lose it. But what I'm excited about and what I was not excited about earlier in this season is the fact that I think that the Cowboys are in a good position going forward.
All right, so we're talking about the Cowboys. You're just saying they've got a future ahead of them.
They've got a big future, and I didn't think they would. 8 months ago, I didn't think that was going to happen. But I am so encouraged by these young players, and if free agency doesn't break up this team's going to be good for a long time.
So my big question marks are, I have two. One, what are they going to do to keep Christopher Richard? Because I don't think Jerry's going to let him go. Jerry's smart. He knows good people when he sees them, and that's a good dude. That's somebody you want to have around. That's somebody that's going to be a Sean McVay. That's somebody that's going to be a Super Bowl present coach in the future. And then my second question is, what kind of future lies ahead for Dak Prescott?
I think that he is getting better and better every week, and there's things that he needs to work on. We see it all the time. He holds the ball too long. He maybe doesn't see the field or read the coverage as well as he should. But I see improvement all the time, and as his confidence grows, and it's growing, he's getting better and better. He's taking chances. He's doing things that he wouldn't have done 9 games ago. And I see some greatness coming with this guy.
A little more pocket presence for him, a little more patience, and the main thing that I think he's got to work on is his ability to check down from one receiver to the next. He has a tendency to kind of lock in on one guy. I don't know if you've watched the way I have, and also his release has been a little slower. But I think there's also some things that are really happening and having a positive effect with the offensive line coach. It was huge to get that guy, Paul Alexander, out of there and bring in Mark Colombo.
Right.
Huge difference. And then they had Connor Williams in at first, but he was struggling with that old offensive coordinator. They brought in the new coordinator, and at the same time, Connor was on the bench. They put in Suafilo, who I think is also shown to be less than average. So they've got Connor Williams back in there, and he's working great. There's a reason why we got him in the first round. But I agree with you. I think I am curious about Dak Prescott. Is he going to continue to grow? I mean, this is only, his third year?
Yeah, I think he's going to continue to grow. And I may not have said that last year because I was a little disappointed and thought, hey, he was a fourth-round pick. We're seeing a fourth-round pick. But that's not what's happening. He's coming back now. And I am not ready to call these guys the Aikman and Emmett and
the trifecta,
the triplets. I'm not ready to call these guys, but I sure like the way this whole thing with Prescott and Zeke and Amari Cooper's going. This I like this look, and the defense is playing so incredibly well.
The defense has even got more talent, I think. You look at the defensive line. Our first-round pick, Taco Charlton, is never getting off the bench. He's behind I can't remember the guy's name that just got hurt, but he's sitting behind Randy Gregory and DeMarcus Lawrence, who are playing lights out right now. Then you've got Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. Everyone calls him the werewolf hunter and the predator. They're like real live action superheroes out there in the field. You watch them; they move.
They're great.
Yeah, and that's they always say defenses build championships. So yeah, I agree the long-term future is really bright, but I also think, especially with this matchup coming against Los Angeles, the Rams, it might be bright in the near future. We might make it to not just a championship game, but we might make it to a Super Bowl.
I'm willing to go out on a limb for this next game and predict the score. Cowboys 172, Rams 27.
Cowboys 170. I've got the Cowboys winning also, but I'm picking a little more
conservatively.
Yeah.
See,
At 30,
now who's the conservative?
I'm going with 35-24, Dallas.
Wow.
Yeah.
You think the offense can put together that many points?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
They haven't been able to do it thus far. We'll see what happens.
A lot of it depends on how Ndamukong Suh plays, because he's a guy coming up on the end of his contract, and he is a guy that has a tendency to lay off plays. But whenever he is on, he is like Godzilla. He's like King Kong. He is this unstoppable force, and he just wrecks offensive lines. Not to mention, he's got Aaron Donald sitting right next to him. If that guy plays like he wants to, we're going to have difficulty, but I don't think enough, especially when it comes to our defense. I get excited whenever we go 3 and out. I get excited because I get to see that defense come back in and play.
By the way, did you see the 100-yard yacht that Jerry Jones purchased?
I did not.
Oh, you have to go look this up.
Can we bring that up, Corey?
Oh, my gosh.
100-yard yacht?
Yeah, it's over 300 feet long. It's it's serious.
Now, if nothing else, that is the beauty of capitalism.
I love
right
it.
There.
I love it. It's Jerry, man.
Jerry's 100
Jerry Jones.
yard, 300-foot yacht.
Over 300 feet.
Jesus.
Yeah. I would just like to be able to ski behind it.
Does he got Dallas Cowboy emblems on it?
I don't think so. I think it's named after his wife. I think he named the ship after his wife.
I see.
But this was just, there it is. This was just the news from a couple of days ago. Look at that thing.
Look at that. Golly.
Ain't America great?
That's America right there, baby. America's team. They could all fit on that boat.
Look at that.
Golly.
It's wild.
I'm sure he's got plans to have a party or something on there, especially if they win the Super Bowl.
I'm hoping I get to go. I don't think that's going to happen, though.
Shoot. Well, this has been a lot of fun, Lonnie. I know you got to run. You got a show to do in the morning. You got to get up at 5.
Got to get up at 5.
But you guys, make sure you check him out, 105.9 KGVL. If you can't tune him in on your local FM radio, you can always get him online.
E-radio, KGVL.com.
Okay, it's not friendly.
It's E-radio, ERADIO, KGVL.com. There it is.
Well, hey, we appreciate you. We love you, Lonnie.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me out.
You guys check him out on TuneIn Radio, or you can go to the website.
You can do it.
We'll see you later.
Thanks, Luke.